Hi there, welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you're returning. My name is Eddie, and today I'm doing a video number 8, I think it is, of a series I've started called A Christian Reading the Quran for the first time. So now I'm reading this with an open mind and being respectful, because I appreciate that this means a lot to 1.5 billion Muslims around the world. The reason why I want to read this is because Islam is doubling in the West every 17 years due to migration or immigration and high birth rates. But at the same time, I want to be honest. So during this video, if you're Muslim and you're listening, there will be some things that you'll probably disagree with. And my intention is not to offend anyone or to tell you and, dictate to you how it is or anything like that. I'm just trying to be respectful and honest and open, but also open-minded. So yeah, I hope you enjoy with what I say, and please comment below. If I make any mistakes, also comment below. Your thoughts, your opinions, and we can have like a respectful dialogue. So far, I've had quite a lot of really positive feedback from about 5 or 6 people. Just encouraging me to keep reading this, and I had a respectful dialogue with a gentleman, which was very interesting, about the prophets in the Old Testament, which I really appreciate. And yeah, what I've picked up so far is that it's set out almost like Proverbs, where you've got like a few verses and then another few verses, and it sort of tells me that there's a lot of do's and don'ts, which is fair enough. It's very different to this, which is more sort of is chronological. And this is the Bible, chronological, and also there's different books on genres, like letters, poems, etc. And I've also learned that roughly half of this was written in Medina and roughly half was written in Mecca. However, it's not 100% like that. Mecca was where Muhammad started his ministry, and then he moved to Medina. What else have I learned? Oh yeah, so some of the stories or texts, stories can jump, but apparently that's to keep the person's attention. I've just started recording, and can you hear the construction? I hope it's not too loud. Apologies if it is. So this version I'm reading is called the Sahil International, and it was translated by 3 American women in the 1990s, either 91 or 97. But I'll just say in the 90s. So yeah, I'll just say a quick prayer. Father, I just pray that what I read today, that it can just help me understand Muslims and help me understand where they're coming from. Hopefully it can help build bridges, and we can learn about each other. And we give you all the glory, all the praise in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. So I've got up to, I'm on Surah 2, which means chapter 2, which is called Al-Baqarah. And I think it's the longest, correct me if I'm wrong, Muslims, but I think it's the longest chapter in the Quran. And I've got up to 171. And I've got ChatGPT here to help me. And I've just asked it for like a 70-word summary of Surah Al-Baqarah, verses 171 to 173. And it says, these verses address the spiritual blindness of disbelievers and highlight the importance of responding to divine guidance. They establish principles of justice, including retribution, which is called qisas, and equitable will-making for the dying. The verses also introduce fasting in Ramadan, explaining the spiritual purpose, cultivating God consciousness, taqwa. Concessions are granted for the sick and travellers, while companions' fairness and sincerity remain central to fulfilling divine laws and obligations. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And I think Surah Al-Baqarah means Book of the Cow. And I'll just quickly ask it again what Surah Al-Baqarah means. Hang on. Because I think it was something to do with the cow. Hang on. Yeah, so Surah Al-Baqarah means the cow in English. Basic meaning, the name comes from a story of a cow mentioned in verse 67 to 73, where the Israelites were commanded by Allah to sacrifice a cow as part of a test of obedience. It's the longest chapter in the Quran, with 286 verses, with a revealed priority in Medina. Key themes of Surah Al-Baqarah: faith and guidance, rules and laws, stories of past nations, especially the children of Israel, moral and spiritual lessons, warning and hope, Why is it important? It often describes the foundations of Islamic law and ethics. Contains Ayat al-Kursi, verse 255, one of the most famous and powerful verses in the Quran. Oh, I'm looking forward to reading that. Reciting it as said to protect from evil per hadith. So, hadith said that. Hadiths are the books that came afterwards. They're used to interpret the Quran. Which, as of saying this, Yasakari said a few days ago that they're not accepted in the scholarly world. I'm not saying that as a dig to Muslims, but, and on top of that, apparently the king of, or the prince of Saudi Arabia, is it ABS? Bin Salman? He, moving forward, wants to go Quran only, apparently. But anyway, Muslims, comment below, please. And yeah, apparently Sunni believe in generally different hadiths to Shia. Sunnis believe in Sahih Al-Baqarah and Sahih Muslim. Okay, so 271, let's go. The example, oh gosh, can you hear that? Cuckoo, cuckoo, the owl. Owls are cool. Sorry, I'm going to go off a bit off topic. The other day I was parking up and there's an owl on top of a street sign right in front of me. It's incredible. I could probably post a photo on the screen or the video. Anyway, that's a bit of a random detour from the topic, sorry. So, verse 171. The example of those who disbelieve is like that of one who shouts at what hears nothing but calls and cries, i.e. cattle or sheep, deaf, dumb and blind, and they do not understand. So the meaning of I think that's pretty self-explanatory, but it says here, disbelievers are likened to livestock that only hear meaningless calls. They fail to understand guidance. They are deaf, dumb and blind in a spiritual sense. This verse criticizes those who receive the message of truth, but remain unresponsive, unaffected by its wisdom or morality. Their refusal to engage with divine guidance is not due to lack of hearing, but due to willful ignorance and arrogance that render their senses spiritually useless. Okay, so my response to that is, if I'm honest, as a Christian and being a disbeliever, that obviously doesn't make me feel amazing by any means, but I know in the Bible it's sort of, there are things like, what's it called? A fool in his heart says there is no God. So in the Bible we do have a couple of, not really digs, but kind of like quite, if someone chucks a bucket of water over you, kind of like sort of comments, So yeah. God, can you hear them birds as well? I tell you what, living in Sydney is like living in an aviary or a zoo. It can be so noisy, especially in the mornings. Oh my goodness. It's not too bad at the moment, but come summer, 5, 6 a.m, you don't need an alarm clock. So verse 172, O you who have believed, eat from the good, i.e. lawful, things which we have provided for you, and be grateful to Allah if it is indeed Him that you worship. So it says here, O you who have believed, eat from the food, i.e. lawful, things which we have provided for you, and be grateful to Allah if it is indeed Him. Yeah, so basically eat the food and then be grateful. Fair enough. There's no commentary for that one on here, on ChatGPT for some reason, but it's pretty self-explanatory. 173, He has only forbidden you to the dead animals, those not slaughtered or hunted expressively for food, blood and flesh of swine, and that which has been dedicated to other than Allah, by whoever is forced by necessity, neither desiring it, nor transgressing its limits. There is no sin upon him. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. So it says here, continuing in the sequence with actual verse 179. Oh, okay. The law of retribution, is it? Kisa is introduced to uphold justice, a life for a life, yet with the room for forgiveness. It provides both a deterrent and a moral option for mercy. It preserves life through justice and fairness, giving the victim's family a path to reconciliation or compensation. This verse stresses that people of understanding should reflect on its wisdom and the balance between justice and compassion it seeks to achieve. Am I reading the same thing? Hang on. So I think I was supposed to read 179 first. continuing in sequence with actual verse 179. Okay. So 179 says, and there is for you in legal retribution, saving of life, O you people of understanding, that you may become righteous. So in the footnotes, after acceptance of compensation. And then 173, he has forbidden to you dead animals, compensation, see, blood, the flesh of swine, and that which has been dedicated to other than Allah. But whoever is forced by necessity, neither desiring it or transgressing its limits, there is no sin upon him. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. Okay, so I think that's something to do with retribution, you know, if there's a crime committed and somebody gets compensated, I think. But I'll move on just because these videos are quite long. Please comment below if I got that wrong. 174. Indeed, they who conceal what Allah has sent down of the book and exchange it for a small price, those consume not into their bellies except the fire, with a capital F. And Allah will not speak to them on the day of resurrection, nor will he purify them, and they will have a painful punishment. Sounds nice. So it says 174, but in brackets, verse 180. Those nearing death are obligated to make a fair will for their parents and close relatives. I see. This was a legal responsibility before fixed inheritance laws. The verse emphasizes the moral weight of bequeathing wealth justly, reflecting righteousness. It promotes social responsibility and prevents distributes, ensuring that wealth is distributed ethically, especially to those who explicitly assigned shares in later revealed inheritance laws. Okay, cool, so it's about inheritance laws. 175. Those are the ones who have exchanged guidance for error and forgiveness for punishment. How patient they are for, i.e. in purchase of the fire. 175. If someone changes a will after hearing it, they bear the full burden of sin. The verse upholds the sanctity of a person's final wishes, warning against manipulation or tampering with legal and moral trusts. It asserts divine awareness of all actions, reinforcing that justice and integrity must be maintained even after death, especially concerning wealth and inheritance matters. So I'll tell you what, if that verse is on keeping the integrity of a will, I'm all for it. Because yeah, it happens quite a lot where people get stitched up. Verse 176, and it's that is deserved by them because Allah has sent down the book in truth, and indeed those who differ over the book are in extreme dissension. So it says here 176 in brackets verse 182. If someone intervenes to correct an unfair or mistaken bequest based on genuine concern for justice, they are not sinful. This exception ensures that correcting a wrong in a will, when done sincerely and ethically, is rewarded, not punished. It encourages intervention only when necessary to prevent harm or injustice, promoting a compassionate and balanced approach in sensitive legal and family matters. 176. Righteousness is not that you turn your faces towards the east or the west, but true righteousness is in one who believes in Allah, the last day, the angels, the book, and the prophets, and give wealth in spite of love for it to relatives, orphans, the needy, the traveller, those who ask for help, and for freeing slaves, and who establishes prayer and gives zakah. That's a charity thing. And those who fulfill their promise when they promise, and those who are patient in poverty and hardship and during battle. Those are the ones who have been true, and it is those who are righteous, the righteous. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. Because it says like, give wealth to relatives, orphans, the needy, travellers, those who ask for help, for freeing slaves, who give charity, pray, the patient in poverty and hardship, and during battle. Those who are ones who have been true, and in those who are righteous. Yeah, it's pretty nice. It says commentary. I probably don't need to read a commentary, but for this one, but it says fasting is prescribed for believers as it was for the early communities. Its purpose is not mere abstention from foods, but cultivating taqwa, God consciousness. So yeah, when you fast, you're becoming more aware of God. The verse links ritual observance with spiritual development, make clear that the aim is moral refinement, empathy, and self-discipline. It introduces Ramadan as a spiritually transformative practice, setting the stage for the subsequent verses detailing its rules and exemptions. Yeah, so we, in Christianity, Jesus says when you fast, so we've got to fast as well. And we teach it as like, your flesh or your bodily desires get reduced, then your spirit becomes more powerful. And it's very powerful, especially if you need something to shift, because we believe as Christians that everything starts off in the spirit realm before it manifests into the physical realm. And we can, well, I know it sounds, we can, I've heard it be said that fasting is like twisting God's arm. Yeah, but no, it's true. Like, I remember hearing a story about Heidi Baker. She's a missionary in Mozambique, and there was a brothel in the town near her, and the girls were quite young, so she fasted for 40 days for it to be basically closed. And I think she said on about day 28 or 30, all the girls came into her place, missionary place, and gave their life to God. I probably misquoted that slightly, but that's how powerful fasting is. But obviously we don't fast to twist God's arm, we fast to get closer to God. It says in the Bible that if we ask him, he'll basically grant it as long as it's in line with his desires. So we believe that as we read the Bible, we renew our mind and become more free in Christ, our intentions and our will and our thoughts are more in line with the Bible and more in line with God. So what we actually ask for is what he wants anyway. It's pretty interesting. Like, fasting is so powerful. Wow, it's so powerful. I'm talking to some atheists last weekend actually about how to connect with God, and the weekend before, and I was saying, like, if you did a 3-day water only fast, praying in your room and reading the Bible, you'd probably meet God. It's like, it's really powerful. Like, we believe in Christianity, take one step towards God, he'll take 2 to you. It says in the Bible, seek and you will find. I'm going off topic here, but like the atheists, a couple of them were like saying, why doesn't God just appear in front of me? And I'm like, that's not how it works. Like, if you're an atheist and you're watching this, okay, think of this, hypothetically thinking for you, I believe in God, but obviously you don't, as an atheist. If God is real, and you're one of 7 billion people, and you're this big, and you're very insignificant, and you might be here for like 30, 50, 70 years, who are we, or you or me, to tell the creator of the universe that I want to see him right in front of me now? We believe it's quite prideful. And it's like a child asking a parent, demanding from his parent sweets. The parent's probably going to be like, no, because you've been a brat. If you practice patience and you do things I want you to do, then you get sweets, you know what I mean? Like you tidy your room or whatever. Anyway, going off topic. 178. Are you who have believed, prescribed for you is legal retribution for those murdered, for the free for the free, the slave for the slave, and the female for the female. Verse 61. No one else should be executed in place of the killer. But whoever onlooks from his brother, i.e. the killer, anything, footnotes, by accepting compensation payment rather than execution, then there should be a suitable follow-up and payment in him, i.e. the deceased's heir or legal representative with good conduct. This is an alleviation from your Lord's and a mercy. But whoever transgresses after that, footnotes, after accepting compensation, will have a painful punishment. Okay. It was 178. Oh. Hang on, I have to type that into ChatGPT. Okay, so verse 178 8. This verse establishes the principle of equal retribution for murder, a free person for a free person, a slave for a slave, female for a female. However, it encourages forgiveness and blood money, which is called diya, if the victim's family chooses to pardon the killer. The balance between justice and mercy is emphasised as a means to prevent excess and uphold human dignity. Okay, 179. And there is for you in legal retribution, bracket, saving of life, of you, O you people of understanding, that you may become righteous, or you may avoid sin. Purpose of Kisas. Here Allah explains that retribution preserves life. It's not just punitive but a deterrent. The verse appeals to people of understanding to reflect on its wisdom, allowing that divine laws aims to protect society, not encourages vengeance. Justice, when applied with restraint and fairness, can lead to moral awareness and social stability. Cool. 180. Prescribed for you when death approaches any one of you, if he leaves wealth, that is, he should make a bequest for the parents and near relatives according to what is acceptable, a duty upon the righteous. 65 in footnotes. The ruling was abrogated by the revelation in Surah Al-Nisa, stipulating obligatory shares for parents and close relatives. Those who do not inherit by law may be remembered in a bequest. See 4:1 to 11. Okay, 180. Those nearing death are instructed to make just wills, wasiyah, for their parents and close relatives. This was transitional ruling before fixed inheritance shares were detailed later. It shows Islam's concern for family rights, ethical distribution of wealth, and ensuring loved ones are cared for after one's passing. Okay, 181. Then whoever alters it, i.e. the bequest, after he has heard it, the sin is only upon those who have altered it. Indeed, Allah is hearing and knowing. So, yeah, anyone who deliberately changes a will after hearing it is guilty of a sin, and Allah will hold them accountable. This emphasizes the sanctity of personal bequests and discourages tampering, fraud, or injustice regarding the deceased's last wishes. It reminds believers that God is all-hearing and all-knowing. Fair enough. 182. But if one fears from the bequeather, in brackets, some error or sin, and corrects that which is between them, i.e. the concerned parties, there is no sin upon him. Indeed, Allah is forgiving and merciful. 182. If someone honestly corrects a will they believe is unfair or harmful without self-interest, they are not sinful. This protects those acting sincerely to uphold justice. Islam values intentions, so intervening to stop harm or restore fairness is done rightly, is encouraged and not condemned. Cool, that's fair enough. That's good that, you know, the Quran wants fairness. Fair enough. 183. O you who have believed, decreed upon you is fasting as it was decreed upon those before you, and that you may become righteous. Does it go to the next page? No. 183. Fasting is prescribed for believers as it was for previous nations to help develop taqwa, which is God's consciousness. The verse introduces the spiritual purpose of fasting, not just self-denial, but to cultivate discipline, humility, and moral awareness. It marks the beginning of a series of rulings about Ramadan and its rules in the following verses. Awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think it's pretty good that you take fasting seriously and God consciousness, and it says to cultivate discipline, humility, and moral awareness. Excellent. So that's just another 2 pages. I've tried to go through it as quick as possible, just because some of my other videos, well, most of them are like 50 minutes long, so I'm trying to keep them at half an hour. And I'm going to try and get to 200 and the end of this chapter before I have to start studying again in a couple of weeks' time. 286. Awesome. Thank you very much for listening. Sorry, my commentary wasn't the most informative or interesting. I didn't really have much to say on that because it was just sort of about laws, and I sort of agree with a lot of those laws. I think they're quite fair, and you know, so anyway, thank you very much. Not that it matters if I think it's fair or not, you know, but yeah, there's nothing too different to what I would believe, I guess. Anyway, thank you for watching. God bless you. Goodbye.